But let's just give it a few more minutes for the rest of the talk
Yeah.
to finish.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I think we'll get going because I'm keen we don't run over. Firstly, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. A quick point of housekeeping. I am recording this talk. That's just for the benefit of anybody who couldn't attend because of the timing. We will send it home, and it also means that you can revisit what I've said if you'd like to in the future. The only reason that impacts you is if you ask a question, there's a possibility your voice might be caught on the recording. It's unlikely from that distance, but if you don't feel comfortable with that, then just wait until the end to ask any questions. So I think you all know this, but I am Susie Green. I have the privilege of being the head of sixth form. Some of you won't know me that well because I was on maternity leave until towards the end of last year. So didn't do your meet and mentor welcome or anything a year ago. But anyway, I'm Susie Green, I'm head of sixth form. I've been at Finland for 12 years. I've been head of sixth form for 5. I've recently had a baby, and so I'm loving my new life of having a great sixth form to run, the best job I've ever had, and having a gorgeous little boy who's running around causing havoc. You will all know Mr. Shepherd and Mrs. Gossel, who did my maternity cover and are the assistant heads of sixth form. And we also have a fab new associate staff team who you may not know. Mrs. Hosking is our study centre manager and wellbeing officer. She replaced Miss Armitage halfway through last year. Her job, she doesn't have a teaching timetable. Her full-time job is literally looking after the sixth form. So I'm sure many of you have already had communication with her. You're very welcome to come in and sit down. Mrs. Foster is our administrator and attendance officer. She's the sixth form queen. She knows everything. So if you have any questions, administrative day-to-day questions, do go to her. I don't have a picture of Laura, but she's our counsellor. She works 2 days a week, provides a confidential counselling service. At this age, students can refer themselves, so they do not need to go through either a parent or carer or a teacher. They can if they wish, that's fine, but there's a referral form on the website they can just fill in and access that service without other people having to know. Obviously, if they disclose something that suggests they're in danger, that will be passed on, but other than that, that's a confidential service. So you will have just met your child's mentor. There's a list of the names. If anyone's not sure, do feel free to take photos if that's helpful. Your child should theoretically know which of the mentor groups they're in, and that is the member of staff or members of staff who will be working with them. So I have to give you a massive apology. I'm sure you've heard from your child that our online system went down for nearly a fortnight. For the last 2 weeks, that's been a complete nightmare, and you have not received the level of communication from me you should have done. I apologise, that is unacceptable, but I promise you it was out of our control. Every morning we were getting emails through from Microsoft saying, sorry, it's still down. It's been a nightmare for us. It's now back up. Normal service will resume, so please accept my sincerest apologies. This is how we will communicate with you. On a Friday, I send a weekly bulletin. It's about a 5-minute read. Please do read it. I try not to be that head of sixth form who sends 5 emails a day. I can't promise, but I do my best. That only works when people read the bulletin. So please do cast your eyes over that. I will send separate emails where needed, but I try and avoid that if I can. The My Child at School app, hopefully you've all got. If you don't know what that is, please speak to me at the end. That is where you will be able to access your child's progress checks, reports, things like that. And I run a series of online talks throughout the year, which you will be able to log on to if you wish. Hello, hi, welcome. At this age, some communication goes through the students. Most students in here are either 18 or heading in the direction of being 18. If that is a problem, if you know the child cannot cope with that, then make sure the mentor knows so they can support them. And in terms of academic communication, that is done by Microsoft Teams and Google Classroom. Teachers upload work to those 2 platforms for students to access. So some key dates. On Monday, as in the Monday that's in 4 days' time, students will be receiving their predicted grades and their home study status. Predicted grades are the predicted grades that will provisionally be submitted for whatever they apply for, whether that is an apprenticeship application, a university application, a college application, whatever. And home study is, so in year 13, we give some students the opportunity to go home in the afternoon if they have study periods. This is dependent on a number of things, and I'm going to talk about it in more detail later on in the presentation, but we will inform students on Monday whether they're being given that home study status. Before anyone panics, it is reviewed every month. So if your child is not given home study status, there'll be a clear reason why, and a month later they will be able to change that if they make improvements. Their first assessment, this is in-class assessment, other than the baseline tests and some of the resits they've done, are the weeks beginning 13th of October and 20th of October, and you will receive the first progress check the week beginning the 17th of November, and then a date for you to keep free is the 20th of November, because that is the year 13 parents' evening. Sorry, another wrong way. Looking ahead, a few things just to be aware of that are coming up. The 27th of November is the sixth form opening. No, absolutely no obligation, but a number of students would like to stay and volunteer with that. We're also going to have an early close on that day, and we'll write to you about it nearer the time. The week beginning the 8th of December, the year 13 mock exams begin. We used to do them in January. After a student feedback, we're piloting doing them in December this year for two reasons. One is students have fed back they'd like to have more time after their mock exams to make changes. And two, students have fed back that for their well-being, if they're in January, that they don't get any break over Christmas, and that causes them a problem. As I said, we've had student feedback on that a few years in a row, so we're giving it a try. And so the mocks will be before Christmas. Then the week beginning 1st of June, the A-level written exams begin. There are a few A-level exams before that, such as the languages, speaking exams and the art practical exams. But the written exam series begins on the 1st of June, and the 24th of June is the year 13 prom. So a quick one, we have a few students in year 13 who have come back and told us they want to change their pronouns, their gender identity. That's fine. We're very, very supportive of that. If your child fits into that category, they can just speak to their mentor discreetly and we'll change that on the system. That's something we're very, very used to. So don't worry about that at all. I'm going to hand over to, timings of the day. You should all know these, but if anyone's not sure, do just take a quick photo. A reminder that students are expected to be in time for 8:45, so they probably want to arrive on site at 8:40 to enable them to get to their personal development room in time. At the moment, they're all expected to be in school until 3:15, but for those who are awarded home study status, if they don't have lessons in the afternoon, they'll be able to leave after 12:35, but not before. Mr. Shepherd.
Right, so currently students are writing their personal statements. They have had time to do those personal statements at the back end of last year on the careers conference that they had, and also they have had time during the period one mentor sessions and been given guidance by the mentors that they've got, which you've all just met. We've had drafts due in at the start of the year that the mentors have checked, and there is another draft due in by the 30th of September. Obviously, we're looking at getting students' applications submitted to UCAS. We have an internal deadline of Friday, the 21st of November for that. And then that gives us time to make sure that we have checked through students' applications, liaised with students, gone back and forth with students. Unfortunately, any application that's submitted after the deadline, we'll send it to UCAS, but the check-in, the time that we built in up until that point to go through the application and check with the students, that will disappear and we'll move on to other things. So it'll be sent to UCAS, but it won't be checked. So that's why it's important that students are getting on with the UCAS applications, making sure that they are tweaking their personal statements, looking at their personal statements, using their mentors to support them to complete their personal statements as well.
Okay, so just a quick word on predicted grade appeals. As you know, on Monday, as I just explained, on Monday we'll be publishing the predicted grades. These predicted grades take into account all the work the child's done so far. So please don't worry if they've done one assessment and that one particular assessment did not reflect their ability. We take every assessment, all classwork, all homework, questions answered in class, any additional work students did over the summer. Several subjects have had assessments already. We take all of that into account and predicted grades are published. I have to be really clear at this point that I cannot and will not predict any child a grade I've not seen they're capable of achieving. Firstly, for my own professional integrity, and secondly, because UCAS, the website through which students apply for university, keep a little note on what grades we predict and then what students get, and every school is given a reliability factor. So if I predict everyone an A star and then they all get an E, then next year that will significantly disadvantage the students. I was incredibly strict last year and the year before to protect you lot, and I have to be strict with you lot to predict next year. So I would recommend that when you speak to your child, the conversation you have is about whether the grade is fair, not whether it's the grade they want, because I cannot predict a child of a certain grade because that is the grade that they would like. I have to see evidence they're capable of getting that grade. However, we do have an appeals window. We recognise that students may not have demonstrated their true ability throughout the last year, and we are prepared to recognise that and reflect on those predicted grades. So after they receive the predicted grade, they will have the chance to put together an evidence-based appeal. It's really important that appeal is not Overton work harder next year. That's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is evidence that they're capable of making that progress. They're capable of achieving those higher grades. So this is about work they've done, marked assessments, additional studying. Lots of students have gone away over the summer. They did their summer exam, their exams for all the summer, and they realised that they needed to put a good shift in. Loads of our students, we're really proud of them, have come back having done a ton of work. Submit that as part of the appeal, and then they'll get a response in writing as soon as possible. I'm not going to give you a time frame for that, because if I get 2 appeals, obviously it'll be a lot quicker than if I get 100 appeals, but we will get through as quickly as we can. Last year, about 25 grades were appealed and about 12 were changed, so it is worth doing, and we will have a one-to-one conversation with the subject teacher for every appeal. So it is worth doing an appeal, but again, please ask your child to reflect on whether they've got suitable evidence before they appeal, because this is not about what they want, what they need. It's not about promises of harder work. It's about evidence that that is a realistic grade for them to be predicted, and I hope I've explained why. So that's the situation with predicted grades, and we try to be as absolutely fair as we can. If your child doesn't get the grade they want and they appeal and it's not changed, clearing is a very simple process. If your child does a year's worth of work and gets A-level results that are higher than their predicted grades, they can reapply for university on results day through a process called clearing. And it is very common for students to obtain places at universities that are maybe more in keeping with the ones they want to go to on results day, because they've come out with grades that are better than their predicted grades. So if we don't change that predicted grade, please don't think everything's lost. We just have to act with academic and professional integrity at this stage. Right then, back to Mr. Shepherd.
Again, in line with what we've talked about in terms of UCAS applications, obviously the predicted grades that are going to come out, general day-to-day things. Our support network is very, very important, and it is quite extensive. As I'm sure you've been told, talked about this year, and we'll try to stress it again over the course of year 12 and now into 13. The mentor is the first port of call, and that's why evenings such as this carry so much importance for you, again, to keep contact with the mentor. Because ultimately, it's going to be the mentor that is with your student every single day. They see them every day. Subject teachers don't see them every day. So that's why it's important that students build those relationships, parents build those relationships, because the mentor does have a part in the UCAS application in terms of references as well. We have got Miss Hoskin, who is the study centre manager. Some of you might have met Miss Hoskin today. A lot of you in here have probably met Miss Hoskin already. She is on the ground floor every single day. She is there. Myself and Miss Green have teaching commitments. Other staff as well aren't always readily available, but Miss Hoskins is generally always readily available on the ground floor in the study centre, with things such as looking at where a certain book might be, supplying a charger. It could be that there might be an issue in a lesson, which then Miss Hoskin has to look at, and then it might go a little bit deeper through another member of staff. But she is day-to-day contact for the student as well. There's Miss Green, head of sixth form, and myself and Miss Gossel, who tend to pick up some of the things which might go a little bit deeper than just day-to-day issues. We've got the sixth form counsellor, which Miss Green mentioned as well. And she is absolutely brilliant. We have students that stay in contact with the counsellor because she has done so much great work with them to help to support getting students through year 12 and year 13, on top of the support that's there for everybody. And some students are involved in the Gateway, which is the building that is just on the way into school. That's the screen that you. Oh.
Sorry.
I think you're pressing the button. In line with some of the enrichment opportunities that students have, and again, I think I talked last year and I talked to the students about it, adding value to any kind of application that students submit. We've got a series of talks that are available to the students, which go above and beyond some lessons. Some of them link in with lessons and subjects, and we really advise students to access these. And again, it just deepens the student knowledge of general things, the world, and also it can help to engage the student with something that they might not have engaged with before. A list of those is up there. Students have access to this as well. There's a been TVO, and these take place on a Monday after period 6. When we ran a 5-period day, we called it period 6. We kind of kept that name because it's something that's just been running for the last couple of years. Workshop and opportunities. Students have already had an opportunity to go to a workplace last year in June, and hopefully a lot of them found it really, really valuable. We do have students that have ongoing work shadowing placements, and if we think that it's going to be useful for students, and again, I've talked about adding value to applications, we do get students that go into primary schools and work with children that go into our primary schools. Students do manage to score some valuable work placement opportunities that on top of the work experience that they did in June, and we can build that into the students' timetable if they've got space on their timetable and if we think it's going to be valuable to them going forwards. So please bear that in mind. All of this stuff that we're saying now has also been communicated to students as well through assemblies. Study priorities. I'm going to pass on to Miss Green for this one.
Thank you so much. So, for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what studying should look like in year 13 and what children should be doing now. I say children, they're not children. Anyway, so firstly, after every single lesson, students should spend some time revisiting every lesson. I would say the biggest fallacy that sixth form students buy into is that studying is the same as doing their homework. Now, obviously, we want students to do their homework, that's great. But that is the absolute bare minimum of the studying they should be doing after every lesson. We expect students to spend 5 hours studying outside lessons per subject they do. Some of that will be in school, some of that will be at home or at the library or whatever. So after every lesson, they should put some time aside to go through their notes and rewrite them. Firstly, that's because the process of reading and rewriting them, there is evidence that that will help start to embed them in their memory. But secondly, because if they realise there are any parts they don't understand, they can speak to their teacher, look at textbooks, whatever it is straight away, while it's still fresh in their mind, to make sure they've got an accurate understanding of what was taught. Then, and this is so important for year 13, they should all condense their notes. There's 2 reasons for this. One, the process again of condensing their notes. So they've got the whole lesson, they write a summary. Condensing their notes, firstly, is another good thing to do in terms of embedding in the long-term memory. But secondly, is a really good academic exercise because it means they have to pick out the most important points in the lesson to be able to condense that lesson. And by going through that process, it teaches them over time to pick out the most important pieces of information. And so every lesson, they should be going through this process. After every lesson, they should be making connections with other key topics. So it is part of the mark scheme in subjects. Every subject has 3 or 4 assessment objectives, and the assessment objective, usually 3 or 4, is about making connections between lots of different topics. This is particularly the case in essay subjects. Students will have to make links between topics, and so it's important that they, when they have their notes, they notice where those notes connect to other topics and they make those links. I recommend they add those to the notes. And then I recommend that rather than sitting and spending 3 hours revisiting one subject, that they might jump around, revisit a lesson half an hour, do a different subject half an hour, come back to it, because again, there is evidence, there's a lot of evidence that's been researched over the last few years. It's a big movement in the education field that jumping between topics, we call it interleaving, helps embed things in long-term memory. So, secondly, students should spend time revising the Year 12 content. And let me be clear, I do not just mean making flashcards. We have lots of students who make flashcard after flashcard after flashcard, and that's lovely. But making more flashcards isn't going to help. We need to shake it up a bit. So firstly, I recommend that students go back to what they've done, revisit past papers they've already done, revisit past essay questions, revisit past homeworks, past exercises, whatever it is, have a look at where they went wrong and actively improve their answers. If a child did an essay in November, I don't know why I'm talking about essays, I'm a maths teacher, but if they did an essay in November, their writing style, their skill will have improved significantly. When they read that essay, they'll probably look at it and think, what was I doing? Because they just make progress. And it's so powerful for them to go back now with all their extra knowledge and all their extra skill in terms of writing and crafting answers, rewrite it and make it better. If a child's done a maths exercise, they will look back now and think, well, obviously I must have looked at the answers because that's not a good way of getting from there to there. And they do look at the answers, trust me. And they can go back and fill that in. And going back over that work is really, really powerful. Students should use exam reports. Now, every paper, every past paper that's been sat has got an examiner's report on the website of the exam board. And that examiner's report talks about what a good one looks like, what the cohort did well, what they did badly, and what the examiners wish they'd seen more of. So a student, they have a question, they answer it themselves, they improve it, then they go to the exam report, notice what the examiner wanted and check they've included it. And that process is powerful in terms of increasing the sophistication of their answers. And I'm not saying flashcards are bad. Flashcards are great, but I have 100 year 13s out of the 200 in the year who just sit and make flashcard after flashcard after flashcard and they think they've done revision. And it's great revision, but it's not the whole picture. At this point, we need to drill down more specifically into how to get all those marks. So I love the expression, eat your frog. You may not have heard of it. The concept of eating your frog is doing the thing you don't want to do. In my case, I just don't like unloading the dishwasher. I will do any other chore in my house, but there's something about me and the dishwasher that just don't get on. Now, I will spend all day being really productive in order not to do my dishwasher. So I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is my dishwasher, and then my day feels like. And very much like that, we know that students will spend hours having done really good study in their favourite subject and the part of that subject that they love, and it happens every year. Then I've studied for 6 hours today, and it's like, yes, you have, but you've studied all the bits you're already good at. And we all know, we all do it. It is really hard to persuade ourselves to study that part of the topic that is the bit we always get wrong, because it's demoralising and it's tough. But I talk to students in assembly about the first thing they do is eat their frog. If they're having a study session and they're going to study for 2 or 3 hours, that first half an hour, do the thing they don't like doing and get it done, cross it off the list, have a cup of tea, and that study session will feel so much more positive. So after every lesson, I recommend students find a part of that topic they didn't enjoy and they found hard, and they spend time studying that, and that's the absolute priority. There's a question they get wrong, go to that first. And if they don't understand it, they can take responsibility for getting help from a teacher, a textbook, the library, their peers, whoever it is. That is probably the most important piece of advice I can give you in terms of supporting students and what they should be doing in terms of studying. And then I recommend they practice writing and answering to A-level standard. And this is where things like the flashcards, spider diagrams and all of that fall down. They don't help them write answers to A-level standard. And let me be clear, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those as memory techniques, they're great, but now we need to move on. And here are some ways of doing that. So exam board websites have loads on. Have a look at textbooks. If you've got a textbook, look for exemplar answers. Exam board websites all have exemplar answers for things. Have a look and see if your child's answer is approximately in the right sort of vein based on that. And then cross-reference their own answers with textbook materials. Now, the other really important thing, and I will talk about this for as long as you want me to, is use of mobile phones. If as parents, every year, I've been head of sixth form for 5 years. I have parents sitting in my office. I have parents crying in my office. I have parents on the phone and they're like, what do I do to help my child? The one thing you can do to help your child is help them have healthy use of their mobile phone, or when they're studying, not use their mobile phone at all. I know that's difficult because a lot of them use their phone as a study device. However, we have laptops we can lend, we have a computer suite. If they go to Warwick or Coventry University Library, which we can support them to do, they have devices there. They should not need to study on their device all the time. If you look around the study centre in the sixth form, our kids are pretty good. They sit there and they study well, but the phones are on their desk and they ping, and their earpods or whatever they're called are in, and then they ping, and then they're distracted, and then they look at something else. And that deep study is often not there because of the devices, and we all know it, and the students in the room all know it, but we're all addicted. Now, this link here, I'm going to send out to you all. It is a Tupperware that locks for a certain amount of time. You can set it to 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever. I seriously recommend everyone gets one and makes a deal with their child. Devices, phones, AirPods, whatever else they use, go in that box. You lock it for 2 hours, they do their studying, they get it out. I promise you that is the one thing you can do that will help even more than eating your frog. There was an experiment done, you probably read about it, it was all over the news 2 years ago, where a group of students from a specific school deleted all social media and they all had the old, do you remember the 3310s with snakes on? I do. Parents will, children won't have a clue what I'm talking about. Where they only had one of those to contact people for emergencies. And all of those children achieved, I don't remember the numbers, like 3 grades higher than expected or something. It makes that much difference. And so please, please do talk about this with your child, because I can see several people in here who I know use their phones a lot, and there are many more in the sixth form. If you're not prepared to go down this route, and I understand why, app limiters are another really, really good one. And I understand it's difficult. We say children, they're 18, there's only so much you can do. But if there is one conversation you can have that will really help, this is it. And I'm going to hand over to Mr. Shepherd to finish after my impassioned plea for your help with the mobile phone situation.
Yeah, we do have high expectations of Finland Park Sixth Form. None of what's going to be on the next couple of slides should be new to any of the students in here or the parents. These go out on the assemblies that we do at the start of each year and at the midpoints in each year. Key ones to pick out: top one, commit to fulfilling your academic potential inside and outside of lessons. Ms. Green has talked about ways that students can help to maximise their opportunities to study and the way that they study. And the period 1 sessions that students have, they get taught study skills in there. The amount of support that they get in those sessions is unrivaled. So it's really, really important that you're aware of that and the students are aware of that as well. Students need to commit, and obviously with your support and our support, they hopefully will commit as well. Contributing to the school and the local community. I've talked about adding value to applications for apprenticeships, employment or universities. We have, all of our students are amazing, but we do have students that go that little bit further than others in terms of organising events, organising clubs, charity events. There's a cake sale going on in T Block tomorrow, and little things like that, showing leadership skills. Again, those kind of things can add value to any application that students are going to put forwards now or even going forwards. Ms. Green talked about devices. Obviously, we want students to be role models to each other, but also to those in the lower school. And we do encourage students to make sure devices are away when they do go to lessons around school, AirPods, phones, and so on. We are trying to prepare students for the next steps, some of which might be employment. So we do have a business wear dress code. Students have all got lanyards. It's so important that they wear those when they are on site. We need to identify students as being sixth formers. We generally know them anyway, but other staff around the school may not know that students are sixth formers. Some of our sixth formers look older than some of the teachers that we've got here, so they do need to be identifiable. It's a safeguarding aspect, a safeguarding mandate that students wear websites. Don't know where that came up. Students wear lanyards when they are on site. We talked about respect in terms of the core values. And again, this one at the bottom, get to your lessons on time. Access what the staff are supplying to you in those lessons. Access the support in the personal development programme that takes place during periods 1. Miss Green, I think, has talked about home study. And we give home study in the afternoon. We don't give it during the day. We tend not to give it during the morning time, because we want students in and we want them accessing what is in the period 1 sessions, because of the study skill aspects of it, because of the support that they're going to get in terms of applications to apprenticeships, universities or employment. Finally, one that we always tack on at the end, bursary. There is a pot of money that is available to support students. Could be buying books, could be buying uniform, and some parents are aware of this, some aren't. If you are eligible, do ask. So if you think you might be eligible, do ask us about that as well. That is it from me.
And that's it from me as well. Thank you so much. We'll stay around for a few minutes if anyone's got any questions you want to ask us on a one-to-one basis. But I hope that was helpful, and thank you so much for coming out.
Yeah. Thank you, folks.
And this recording.